It's 4 o'clock in Radio Cairo. This is World of Info. My name is Dr. Amr Mabrouk. Dua Muhammad is at the control. We're coming live from Studio 3. Our direct line number is 257-89407. And really, it's a beautiful afternoon in Cairo. It's a bit hot, but it's the weekend. You should be relaxed. You should be going home right now, or maybe in an hour or so. So stay tuned to us in Radio Cairo. So it's every Thursday. This is the World of Info time, and we are here from 5 p.m. And today we have the great pleasure and honor to have with us His Excellency Ambassador Sushil Lamsal, Ambassador of Nepal in Cairo. And it's really a great honor to have such a distinguished diplomat who has served his country in different positions. He has served in Egypt. Now his country is as an ambassador to Egypt, and before that he was Deputy Chief of Mission in the Embassy of Nepal in Peking, and also he served in Hong Kong, and he served as well in Bangladesh. So a very colorful career, and of course a very impressive one. He speaks 5 languages: Chinese, Nepali, English, Hindi and Bengali, and probably very soon he will be listening to him talking in Arabic, because this man has no end. Of course, the gentleman has a degree from Johns Hopkins University in Advanced International Studies, an MA. He is a winner of Fulbright scholarship, and he is a winner of a lot of distinctive awards presented to him by the Nepalese government for his extracurricular activities, and of course the activities that he has done through his tenure working in the foreign service of his country, Nepal. And Sir, Excellency, we are very pleased to have you with us today on air. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Dr. Mabrouk.
Well, it's a great pleasure to have with us today.
Likewise. Thank you so much for having me.
It's a great pleasure to have with us today His Excellency Ambassador Sushil Lamsal, Ambassador of Nepal to Egypt. And sir, welcome to Egypt. I know that you have just presented your credentials 2 weeks back to His Excellency President Sisi, and definitely it was a very fruitful meeting.
Yes, it was a great honor and pleasure. I presented my letters of credence to His Excellency Sisi on the 17th of this month. And with this, yes, I'm now serving as ambassador in my full-fledged capacity.
Well, this is a great pleasure and honor to have you with us, because Nepal is a very dear country to Egyptians and to a lot of people, because it is a landlocked, although it's a landlocked country in South Asia, it is mainly situated in the Himalayas, but also includes parts of the Indo-Gangetic Plain, bordering Tibet of China to the north and India on the south, east and west, while it is narrowly separated from Bangladesh by the Siliguri corridor and from Bhutan by the Indian state of Sikkim. How far did this site affect the country, sir?
Well, Nepal, as you know, is one of the oldest countries in the world, with an ancient history, culture and civilization. We are neighbors, as you mentioned, of the first, second, and actually the 7th most populous countries in the world, China, India, and Bangladesh, respectively. So the locational advantage that this location brings for Nepal is enormous, with enormous opportunities being a neighbor of these populous countries in terms of consumer markets and sources of tourism, as well as connectivity and the prospect of economic development. Nepal has a very good blend of cultures, languages, and lifestyle abutting these large landmasses to the north and south of the country. Is a unique opportunity for Nepal for its economic development, I believe, and also a blend that gives Nepal its unique identity and status. So we're very proud to be in this location and to be cooperating with countries of the world, with our neighbors, for mutual benefit.
You have just mentioned that you have at your borders 3 of the largest countries as regards population: China, India, and of course Bangladesh. And also Nepal has a very diverse geography, including fertile plains, subalpine forested hills, and 8 of the world's 10 tallest mountains, including Mount Everest, the highest point on Earth. So, of course, how far did the presence of these mountains affect Nepal, especially Mount Everest? The challenge and how the people always look to Mount Everest with great admiration and fear and a lot of things. So it's a mixed emotion that the population of the world looks at Mount Everest, and you are living at the foothills of this great mountain.
Right.
So tell us about how you're living there and how this mountain has affected the imagination and the dreams of the Nepalese.
Yeah, Nepal is first known the world over for its mountains, particularly Mount Everest, and it blooms flowers in the imagination of the people across the world. The mountains are Nepal's pride and embody its soul in a sense. But it's also important to remember that Nepal is a diverse country with differing landscapes and climates, as you also briefly mentioned. Apart from the mountains and hills, we also have, of course, vast green and fertile expanse in the south known as Tarai, which is approximately 23% of the total area. This land consists of rich alluvial soil forests and drainage areas of mighty rivers. So far as mountains are concerned, of course, they are a great attraction to the whole humanity, and also an important part of our culture and an important part of our national heritage.
Of course, sometimes people would omit the fact that the conquering of Everest by Edmund Hillary in 1954, but there was a gentleman, a Nepalese gentleman with him, and without him this trip would have been done, and this conquest would have never happened. Sometimes, Sir Edmund Hillary always, the Australian gentleman, always said and mentioned with great admiration the help and the colleague and the friendship that he had with the Nepalese gentleman. But sometimes people always say Edmund Hillary and tend to forget his Nepalese friend and colleague.
Yes, as you mentioned, New Zealand's Edmund Hillary, of course, and Nepal's Tenzing Norgay Sherpa were the first two persons who ascended Mount Everest. And they made history in the world through their heroic acts and courage. And from then on, of course, Nepal was known the world over even more visibly. So as you were mentioning previously, the challenges of connectivity of course mountains are beautiful. They are towering figures of our identity. But also then we face the challenge of ensuring smooth transportation and communication throughout the country. And this challenge, however, has been getting easier through the use of technology. Nepalese are quick in adopting technology. For example, mobile phones access has increased rapidly over the past couple of years.
This is 160%, right, sir?
Yes.
So every Nepalese, because there are 30 million people almost, the new census was not yet made, so 30 million people with 160%, so almost everyone is having 2 or 3 mobiles, right?
And on the other hand, physical infrastructure is also improving rapidly. The East-West Highway, as well as highways along the north and south, are also being built rapidly. So, in the next couple of years, we believe that the challenges that we've been facing so far will be, will be less and less.
Since we're bringing up this subject, the communication has been always a problem because of the geography, and I think that Nepal has at least 5 airports which are functioning and helping very much the population of Nepal to get communication with each other. And definitely the roads, as you have mentioned, they are starting to build up more advanced roads. By time this problem of communication and connection along the country will be solved with the 170,000 square kilometers that you have, right, sir?
Yeah, actually, as you rightly pointed out, there are many. Actually, according to latest data, we have more than 43 airports in Nepal. 2 functioning international airports. One has been recently inaugurated. The third international airport is under construction. And we also have plans of building railways. So connectivities in railway, road, and air services. These will eventually reduce the challenges that we've been facing in terms of connections transportation and communication.
Definitely, when we talk about Nepal, we cannot really omit the way about the Nepalese people. Nepalese people are known for being kind, receptive, and intelligent, and very hard-working people. Yeah. The Gorkha, the famous Nepalese soldiers, have shared and taken a great share in the conflicts, whether this was World War I or World War II, and everybody attracted attention during the war, the Anglo-Nepalese War in 1815, when the British found for a great admiration how the Gorkha and how the Nepalese defended their countries. So when we talk about the people of Nepal, it's a multi-ethnic, multilingual, multi-religious, and multicultural state, while the Nepali is the official language. How was it possible to have, for the country, to be a melting pot for all this diversity?
Yes, so this brings us to the history and culture of Nepal. Nepal is the land of ancient seers and sages of infinite erudition and wisdom. The value of Vasudeva Kutumbakam, which means the world is one family, as written in our ancient scriptures, animates our daily lives. Unity and diversity and harmony and coexistence are the mantras of the Nepali people. So we have seen a rich history and tradition of harmony and peace with people coming from all directions, making Nepal their home. There have actually been no major cases of violence between communities in Nepal, community groups in Nepal, in the country in its history, between major faiths or beliefs. So live and let live is the guiding philosophy that we all believe in. Nepal is a country of minorities. I mean, there are hundreds of different groups of people. There are more than 125 different ethnic groups, more than 123 linguistic groups, the people coming together in one place, living in harmony and peace. So it's a true melting pot with distinctive identities, of course, different cuisines, different lifestyles, livelihoods, and faith and beliefs all living together in a beautiful tapestry of life.
Of course, we cannot forget that although 90% of the population are for Hindus, yet we have always to remember that Buddha was one of the kings of Nepal, and he got his motive to leave his job and become a religious icon and function and found the Buddhism 500 years before Christ. So definitely it's a country that definitely stimulates people to be more pious and have faith in the Almighty, whatever the religion that they are following. Right, sir?
Yeah. Buddha was the son of a principality, the king of a principality, one of the smaller kingdoms in ancient history. So however, the teachings that he gave to the people, of course, the teachings that he handed down have animated and been an important part of the lives of the people of Nepal. For example, the value of moderation, of peace and harmony, of the five shilas, the different disciplines that humanity should deliver itself with and practice, for example, non-violence, truth, peace, harmony, etc. These are the founding principles of every Nepali life, every Nepali family, every Nepali faith and belief is founded in these guiding principles of peace and harmony. So yes, Gautam Buddha was born more than 2,500 years ago, remains an important figure in the imagination and in the life of the people of Nepal, and he has been an important figure.
Definitely, that's true. And of course, we are going now to have a break with His Excellency Ambassador Sushil Lamsal, Ambassador of Nepal in Cairo. And when we come back, we'll talk about the modern Nepal, the mid-18th century onwards, with a great of turmoil and a great of advancement in everything. So stay tuned with us to the World of Info. So still listening into the World of Info. My name is Dr. Amr Mabrouk. Dua Muhammad is at the control, and we're having His Excellency Ambassador Sushil Lamsal Ambassador of Nepal in Cairo. Excellency.
Hello.
Yes, hello again, sir.
Hello again.
So we're talking about in the mid-18th century, a gentleman by the name of Rezivi Narhan Shah, a Gorkha king, set out to put together what would become a present-day Nepal. He embarked on his mission by securing the neutrality of the bordering mountain kingdoms. His success and later on the conflicts that happened that led to the Sino-Nepalese War and the Anglo-Nepalese War, which established the reputation of Gurkhas as fierce and ruthless soldiers, and ended in Sugali's Treaty, under which Nepal ceded recently captured lands. How do Nepalese today look at this period in particular, sir?
So if you look at the history of the mid-18th century, whether in South Asia, where Nepal lies, or elsewhere in the world, you will see that it was a period of great contestations and conflicts, as well as acts of integrations and disintegrations and so on. So, well, all Nepalese are proud of our history, especially of the great acts of bravery, foresight, and humanism of our forefathers, especially in the past, the period which was mentioned. We also see the past in a proper perspective and see it as what it is, that it is the past. In times of the present, I think all Nepalese look forward to a future of economic growth and development and prosperity, and modernization of a society while retaining our culture, tradition, and values for everybody's peace and well-being. So Nepal enjoys cordial relations with all countries around the world, and this is a result of these harmonious relations that we've maintained over the past with all countries that we've had engagement with, whether during periods of turbulence, during periods of peace. So, so given the goodwill that Nepal receives from our friends, we feel it's important to contribute more to international peace process and social justice through collaboration with our neighbors and with all friendly countries. And we see the past as something to draw inspiration from, but then move along towards the future with hope and collaboration with all.
Also, in the 1846, there was the Konawar who established the autocratic Rana regime and instituted a pro-British foreign policy in this regime, controlled the country until the 1940s. How far did this dynasty, the Rana dynasty, affected the country?
Yeah, that was a period, the mid-19th century, when the world saw epoch-changing transformation and technological innovation. For example, electricity, railways, mass education, vaccinations, and so on. But that was also the period during which Nepal was bound by an autocratic regime, the Rana regime to be specific, and Nepal had to wait until the mid-20th century to embark on the path to modernity and economic development. So that was a century of a century between myths. That was the last century, I would say, and that has had still repercussions and impacts on the economic development of the country, because we started late and we missed on that the early technological benefits that we could have had also been cherished.
Exactly. So when we speak about the last years of the 20th century, we have seen a period of turmoil. A massacre that happened in the royal palace with the murder of the king and his crown prince. And from 1996 till 2006, the country has seen a period of turmoil. How was it possible to end this period? Because this period seems like a sort of a dark tunnel that was not ending and even progressed sometimes to a civil war. How the Nepalese could get out of this chaos successfully, sir?
So the Maoist armed insurgency that started in 1996 and which came to a peaceful conclusion in 2006 with the signing of a comprehensive peace agreement is one of the most defining moments in Nepal's modern history. But the good thing is that all major political forces of Nepal from different ends of the spectrum, from the right to the left to the center, one place in defining and deciding what Nepal's future should look like. So there were two constituent assemblies, the elections to which were held on the basis of adult franchise. Unfortunately, the first constituent assembly could not write the constitution, but fortunately, thankfully, the second one was able to deliver a constitution in 2015.
Yes, 2015. I was just going to say this. Yeah.
Yes, and that was an important landmark in Nepal's modern history, I would say, because the constitution of Nepal enshrines and ensures, guarantees the rights of every citizen, and it also makes appropriate provisions for ensuring the participation of all sections of society, women, disadvantaged sections of the women, the downtrodden, Dalits, for example, and people from the minorities to be included in state structures and politics of the state. So, and you can see that over the last couple of years since the promulgation of the Constitution of Nepal in 2015, Nepal has witnessed a period of political tranquility and harmony and relative political stability compared to the past. So how were we able to achieve this? Now, this is an important question. It's very hard for us to answer this question, I would say, because we are in the midst of it, I mean, but then I would venture to say that the culture of working along with other political forces, whatever the differences might be, in order that we can ensure a future of prosperity, peace, and hope for our next generation was what was most important and prominent in the minds of the leadership, as well as political work, and the society at large, which pressurized the political classes and all political forces to come to a negotiated settlement in 2006. And from 2006 to 2015, of course, it was a period of transition in which there were many ups and downs, but eventually the promulgation of the Constitution, that was the landmark event which ended the transition and started a new era in Nepal's political trajectory.
So now Nepal is a secular, democratic parliamentarian republic,
Yes.
right, sir? And this gives a lot of hope of peace and tranquility after the period of turmoil and, of course, the last years of monarchy and the wars or the civil war that happened with the Maoist factions as well. So I think we will be heading now to the fruits of this improvement in the political aspect. We have to talk about the health and education, and this will be after the break. So please stay tuned with us, with His Excellency Ambassador Sushil Masal, Ambassador of Nepal to Cairo, and we're coming live from Studio 3. So, you're still listening into World of Info with His Excellency Ambassador Sushil Lamsal, and we're coming live from Studio 3. My name is Dr. Amr Mabrouk. Dua Muhammad is at the control, and our direct line number is 25789407. Excellency, it's great to have you with us today.
Likewise.
And before we went off air, we were discussing the health and education, which remains as a great challenge for any country. How far is Nepal able to maintain success in these fields?
So, let us start with the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. So, even though there was a huge loss of lives in the pandemic, the good news is the vaccination rate has been very impressive, with almost everybody vaccinated with at least one dose, and more than 97% with both doses of the vaccine. So that is an example. But overall, also, if you look at the Human Development Index of Nepal, in 1975, the HDI was 0.291, and in 2019, for example, Nepal's HDI shot up to 0.602. So when looking at the right to health with respect to children, another metric, for example, Nepal achieves 97.1% of what is expected based on its current income. And in terms of mortality rates during childbirth, I mean, there has been a huge decrease, as well as mortality under the age of 5 and neonatal mortality and so on. Life expectancy, for example, has also rose from 66 years in 2005 to 71.5 years in 2018. So these have been some achievements that we've achieved in the field of health. And so far as education is concerned, there is almost universal pre-primary and primary enrollment, and gender parity until 8th grade is 1, which means that equal number of boys and girls go to school. And the initiative to provide scholarships to girls and female teachers has been an important part of the story. And enrollment has increased manifold in the past 3 decades, and so on. So however, there are challenges. In education, for example, the challenge is to maintain the quality of education. Now that most students in the pre-primary, primary level go to school, the challenge is to make sure that they are retained in the school system and that they get the basic ability, achieve the basic ability to read, write, and count, as well as other skills important in maintaining a livelihood, in leading a livelihood. In health also, the challenge is to improve the quality of public institutions. However, and on the other hand, we also face seasonal challenges, infectious diseases, especially during floods and other natural hazards, the epidemics of the kind of that we saw during COVID-19, and so on. So we are hopeful, however, that because Nepal's young population, Nepal is a very young country. If I would give some data statistics on that. For example, Nepal's median age is 24 years, a little more than 24 years now. So which means that there is a huge demographic dividend that we are likely to channel. But into that, the quality of education and health needs to be improved, which is why the government of Nepal has increased our faith in these 2 important sectors over the last couple of years. But then we also need the support of the international community. The international community has helped a lot in Nepal in both these sectors, and I hope that in the future, Nepal's population, the people of Nepal are its most important asset as of any other country, and that the investments that we're making in health and education will be a critical part of the modernization and development of Nepal.
So since we're talking about the modernization, of course, education is a pillar of modernization. Nepal gross domestic product is for 2019 was 34.186 billion, with an annual gross rate calculated at 6.6% in 2019 and expected to be 2.89 in 2021. So Nepal is one of the fastest growing economies in the world. How was that possible, sir?
So, one reason, I mean, the period that you mentioned from 1996 to 2006 was a period in which we faced the armed insurgency in the country. But after that, the dividend, the peace dividend, as it is called, sometimes called, was an important factor, as was the low base from which it started. As mentioned earlier, we have a young and mobile population, and there were also rapid transformations in the structure of the economy. The post-conflict growth spurt, as well as the peace agreement of 2006, these were all important factors. But then there is also the story of remittances, of monies sent back to Nepal by Nepal's young workers, migrant workers working in countries of the Gulf and in other countries of the world, including Malaysia, has also been an important part of this story.
So also, we have noticed that Nepal has taken a big share in the United Nations peacekeeping forces all over the world. They have a very honorable history in this field. How come was that fact or a strong belief in the military of Nepal?
Actually, Nepal is now the second largest troop and police contributing countries in UN peacekeeping forces. And for this, we've had a long history. Nepal's peacekeepers have taken part in many peacekeeping operations around the world since the very beginning. So coming to your question about why is it that Nepal's troops have been so visible, I would say that Nepal's reputation as a country of neutral stance, of non-alignment. We have like Egypt, of course, Egypt and Nepal and other countries have been the leaders of the non-aligned movement. We have the reputation of speaking on issues of global interest and concerns based on the merit of the case and not aligning with any one particular power or country. I think that is the most important reputation that we've had, which has played an important part in Nepal is an important contributing country. On the other hand, the professionalism and the high standards of our military, from the very beginning, of course, with a very long history of our Nepalese army, I think that also is an important element in why it's been an important contributor.
So before we leave this section of our interview, we have to talk about something which is of national pride. Your flag is the only flag in the world that is triangular and it's not rectangular, and it has two identical triangles on parallel to each other. Tell us about the story of this flag, sir, and what does it stand for?
Nepal's flag is the only national flag in the world that is non-partilateral in shape. So it's a simplified combination of two single pennants. And the crimson red is the color of the rhododendron, the country's national flower. The red is also the sign of victory in war and auspiciousness. And this color is also used during our major festivals. For example, our Dashami festival is being celebrated now and will culminate in the Vijaya Dashami festival next Wednesday. And on that day also, we use the crimson-colored red color for auspicious purposes. And the color blue, which borders the flag of Nepal, is the color of peace. So until 1962, the flag emblems, the sun and the crescent moon that we see in the flag, had human faces. However, they were removed later to standardize the flag. So the history of Nepal's flag goes back to ancient times. I would say during the 1,000 years of history that Nepal has, this flag has been in place, and it symbolizes the sun and the moon, which are, of course, symbols of eternity, which means that so long as the sun and the moon are there in the sky, Nepal as a nation state and as a civilization will remain on the face of the earth. And this is a symbol of the peace and harmony that we've been living with, have been practicing with the country of Gautam Buddha that you also mentioned. So these are the different symbolic meanings that our flag symbolizes, and is a matter of pride for all of us.
Well, this is very interesting, of course, the story of the flag. So still listening into His Excellency Ambassador Sushil Lamsal, the Ambassador of Nepal to Cairo, and after the break we'll talk all about the important pillar of the economy, which is tourism and the climbing of the Mount Everest. So stay tuned to us in Radio Cairo. So still listening into the world of info, and today we have His Excellency Ambassador Sushil Lamsal, Ambassador of Nepal in Cairo. And thank you very much for staying online with us today, sir.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mabrouk, for having me on your show.
It's a great pleasure. Now we're going to talk about a very important pillar in the economy of Nepal, and I guess all our listeners wanted to hear about it, because we're going to talk about tourism, and mainly you receive a lot of tourists who have always the dream to climb Mountain Everest, or even to reach the base at the base of the mountain. Like our common friend Brad, when he told us last week that he was planning a trip. He was not that ambitious to climb the mountain itself, but he wanted to reach the base camp. So tell us about this, because I think it's a blooming business. And I heard last time I've heard it was almost about $150,000 per person to reach the Mount Everest, because it's very expensive. Why is it very expensive, and why is it very difficult?
No, actually, the figure that you mentioned, it consists of many different kinds of costs. So it also depends upon how large your group is, whether you want to have your own Sherpa, about the route that you want to take, with the precautions that you want to have, and so on. So, so as you mentioned, yes, Nepal is the highest country in the world. And it also boasts of two iconic destinations, including, of course, the Mount Everest, but also Lumbini, which is the birthplace of Gautam Buddha, the founder of Buddhism. And Nepal is also the top global destination for trekking, mountaineering, and adventure sports. And apart from these, there are many other attractions: amazing cultural diversity, climate and ecosystem variety, ultimate adventures. On the other hand, it's also sacred land of the Himalayas for two large and ancient religions, Hinduism and Buddhism. It's the center of spiritual awakening and purification of wellness and well-being. It's a country of 10 UNESCO heritage sites. The majestic peaks of the Himalayas, the pristine lakes and valleys of the mid-hills, and the green vastness of the plains, all of these make Nepal what it is. It's a unique identity. And more than 125 ethnic groups of multiple beliefs, traditions, and cuisines, 12 national parks, wildlife reserves and conservation areas, all of these in a land elevating from 60 meters to 1,848.8 meters to be precise.
Yes.
It creates a rich tapestry of cultural and natural beauty and variety. So Nepal is a land where you have value for money, where you have nature, culture, and adventure all blended into one, with ancient history, culture, and civilization. But you can also practice your spiritual well-being and pursue and seek spiritual, realization and understanding of your own self. I would encourage listeners who are in this show to explore the many opportunities that Nepal provides in, going to another part of the world where it is an exotic destination, but then it's not difficult. It's an easy but exotic destination. And it's not just sightseeing, but a sight-feeling place, where you feel the place instead of just seeing it. And it's also not just for comfort, but also for the experience of a lifetime. So I would highly encourage listeners to give a thought to visiting Nepal, which will, I'm sure, I guarantee, be a very fruitful, very fulfilling experience for everybody.
Of course, you're talking. This is definitely a very attractive offer that you're offering us. But definitely, we have to talk about Everest, since we brought the subject. Every year, Everest is unconquerable, and sometimes people lose their lives or lose their hopes in climbing at the least. So why is it still dangerous? And also another problem is that the Nepalese government has been complaining to a lot of tourists who have been using Everest or putting a lot of trash on the mountain itself. And Nepal has asked for national help and international guidance for all the tourists not to litter in the Mount Everest. Tell us about these 2 points, please, sir.
There are hazards like avalanches, icefalls, and rockfalls that have led to most of the deadliest moments in Mount Everest. And there are other incidents also, especially if they are roped together. If people are roped together, they kill numerous families at once, and that's something very unfortunate for us. So there have been many different reasons, I would say, including bad weather, which is most of the time very unpredictable. I mean, the sky is clear, but then it can change within moments, and then you never know what's going to happen. Well, on the one hand, it's an allure of the mountains that there is this danger that is there, and there's something that we can do to change. Perhaps there are some elements of it which we can take care of beforehand to minimize the risks, but then there are some others which are probably more natural and beyond human capacity. Of course, the government has been trying its best to reduce the number of reduce the risks and make it safer climbers to climb Mount Everest, and several policy and the systemic changes have been put in place. So far as the pollution in the Everest is concerned, I mean, this is something which we've been really concerned about, the government is concerned about, because other people of the country, as well as environmental groups and people in general. I mean, everybody is concerned about this matter. There are volunteers who've tried to clean it, but then it's an enormously difficult task. And I would encourage people to visit places which are vulnerable and fragile, as mountains are, to take care of the environment when they visit such places. I mean, personal responsibility is the first and the most primary initiative that should be at place. And there are different incentives in place to make sure that it becomes more cleaner and better in the future.
Well, this is very important also, and also it's important for our listeners to know that Mount Everest has been conquered by an Egyptian, right?
Yes.
Amr Samra has climbed Mount Everest, I think maybe 3 or 4 years back, right, sir?
Recently.
Yes. And this is also a great advantage that an Egyptian has been to Mount Everest, in spite of all the facts that Egypt is not a country of high mountains, and to have a person able to do that hiking and to do this climbing is part of our pride and, of course, understanding of how much sacrifice this gentleman has made to do this difficult deal. Because definitely you need a lot of preparation, right?
You need a lot of preparations. You need to acclimatize to the climate, the environment, and the conditions, circumstances in the place. I mean, it's a huge challenge. And however, I hear from climbers who've been there that it's worth it.
Definitely. So, since we're approaching the end of the show, we have to talk about your distinguished job here, because you are, as the ambassador of Nepal, having a very important task, which is maintain the super friendly relations that Egypt and Nepal have, and of course to improve these relations and work on it. So tell us about the history of the Egyptian-Nepalese relation, especially that you met our president a few weeks back.
Yeah. So Nepal and Egypt established diplomatic relations in 1957, and our embassy in Cairo was opened in 1966. The Egyptian government set up its embassy in Nepal in 1970. Both of our countries are founding members of the Non-Aligned Movement, and we're members of the United Nations in G77. Our relations, as you mentioned, are super friendly. They are based on cooperation, trust, and understanding. There have been important exchange of visits between the two countries. The head of state from Nepal visited Egypt several times, and there have also been important bilateral visits from Egypt to Nepal. We also have several agreements in different fields. We signed a trade agreement in 1975 and one on economic and technical cooperation in 2007. In 76, we signed the cultural, scientific, and technical cooperation. So these are the basic facts. The people-to-people relations between our two countries are improving and flourishing. Many Egyptian tourists visit Nepal every year. The number is increasing. Of course, the COVID pandemic was something that stopped the flow, but then we hope that the tourists from Egypt will begin to venture into Nepal again soon in greater numbers. students, we have many in Egypt. At Al-Azhar, there are students of Islamic Studies and Arabic. At Cairo University and Shams University, we have students in medicine and in agriculture. So they are the vital links connecting the two countries and the two peoples.
I had the pleasure, I work as a professor of plastic and maxillofacial surgery in Ain Shams University, and I found out that there are some Nepalese students, almost 4 or 5, who are there on the 6th year when I was teaching them last year, and I was very happy to see them. They look very smart and intelligent and very hardworking. So I really commend you for sending such students to have an education in Egypt. Also, we are very interested to talk about your visit to the Grand Sheikh Al-Azhar 2 days ago when you visited him, and there was a very nice spiritual talk. Tell us about this meeting, sir.
The Grand Imam was very kind enough to welcome me in his office. We had very fruitful and wide-ranging discussions centering on enhancing cooperation between Nepal and Al-Azhar. The students from Nepal in Al-Azhar are very fortunate to be enrolled in that great institution, that illustrious institution of learning. Thousands of years old institution is something very special. And our students are privileged to be studying that university. And the Grand Imam was very kind enough also to praise the hard work and integrity of the Nepali students, very peaceful, harmonious, and working very hard in improving their understanding and knowledge. So we also discussed ways of promoting bilateral relations, especially in new and modern and scientific fields of study, and we hope that in the future, more and more Nepali students will be able to participate and attend the courses provided by Al-Azhar. As you know, Nepal has a sizable Muslim community.
4.5%, right? Almost?
Yes, it's a sizable number. And we are a secular country with equal rights and privileges for all religious faiths and groups. We encourage students from all religious and ethnic backgrounds to make the most of the opportunities available to them for their personal well-being and enhancement, and so on. And the Grand Imam was very kind to welcome more students and to provide scholarships to enable their studies in the university.
How many students you have now in the Al-Azhar University, sir?
At Al-Azhar, we have 74.
Yes.
But that number was slightly higher before the pandemic.
Yeah.
And we hope that after this, more and more students will come.
And I think medical students, maybe 10, maybe in our university or something like that, or
in Ain Shams, yes, but in Cairo University there are more.
Yeah.
And this year, I understand that there will be many students coming to join the MBBS course also.
That's really great sign of cooperation. We really appreciate your time, sir, and we are very happy that you could join us on Radio Cairo. Hopefully we'll see you soon, inshallah, and more, and to give us more feedback about the Egyptian-Nepalese relations. And definitely it was a great pleasure and honor to have you with us today, His Excellency Ambassador Sushil Lamsal, Ambassador of Nepal in Egypt. My name is Dr. Amr Mabrouk. Dua Muhammad was at the control. We were coming live from Studio 3. Sir, thank you very much for being patient.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mabrouk, for having me.
It is a great pleasure and honor. And stay tuned to Radio Cairo, and we'll see you same time, same station next week, inshallah. Thank you, sir.